everyone. We are back for another episode of Ask an Expert. I think we're at episode 89, which is wild. we're getting close to 3 digits here. And we are so happy to be joined by Laura Connaway, who's the founder of Connaway Associates. And the topic we're covering is equine insurance. If you're in the Facebook group, you know that this is a highly requested topic, which makes sense because it's a very important thing to know about. And there's a lot of, nuances and things that would be helpful to know with the guidance of an expert. So Laura is here today to give us that help. And Laura, we're so grateful that you're taking an hour to kind of help us be better informed about insuring our horses.
Yes. I mean, of course, we do this all day, and I can't wait to hear the questions.
Yeah, we have some good questions already in the basket. So I know that we're going to get into some interesting stuff. To start, Laura, will you tell us about yourself? Like, tell us where you're based and kind of the origin story of your business.
Yeah, of course. Our office is in Arkansas, and we are all horsemen. I founded the company 30 years ago. Actually, it's 31 years ago now. Mainly because a lot of the, whenever I'd go to insure a horse, you would be talking to somebody that maybe their specialty was thoroughbred race horses or quarter horses or something, and they didn't necessarily do the sport that I did. So I thought it would be really beneficial for individuals to be able to talk to somebody that was in their sport, understood their competition and the type of injuries and issues that might happen to their horses.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what type of riding did you grow up doing, and are you still doing that type of riding?
Yeah,
tell us about that.
I grew up doing more of the smaller hunter jumper type riding, and I still ride. I also breed horses, and I currently have 2 Grand Prix horses that I bred that I'm competing and in show jumping, and then some young horses that I'm training and riding.
You bred 2 horses that got to the Grand Prix level?
Yeah.
Laura,
yeah.
we might need a whole nother aspect of that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How exciting.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the team of horse people that you have at Connaway Associates. Are you guys a small team or a big team? And what do the different roles look like?
Well, we're I don't know if you'd consider it a small or a big team. I don't really know what other agencies are doing. We pretty much stick to what we do. We only do horses and horse farms. So there are a lot of agencies out there that do a lot of other stuff. They might, just have like a whole general agency, and we do not. We only do horses, only do horse farms, and all the liability associated with that. So if it's anything horse related, commercial auto for the horse farm and for the riders, the farm property, the liability, and of course the horses themselves. And the team, basically we all do whatever is necessary, and we pitch in and help each other. We do have some individuals that concentrate mostly on renewals of business and mostly on farms, but we all pitch in and pretty much know all the different roles.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you mentioned at the beginning about how I'll say agencies, but correct me if I'm wrong, specifically cater to like a breed or a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, tell us, is it common for agencies to be that focused, or like you're talking about how your agency focuses on like horses in general and the things that surround the horses and go into owning horses? Are there also agencies that they'll do horses or they'll do things totally not related to horses?
Right. And within that, there are some agencies that mainly specialize in the Western type of riding. And there might be some agencies that mainly focus on reining horses. Whereas our agency, we mainly focus on hunters, jumpers, dressage, and eventing. that's what our agency mainly writes. We choose not to write any racing stock, so we don't do any thoroughbred racing or quarter horse racing, and most of our book is hunters, jumpers, eventing, and dressage. Where someone that maybe is more Western focused, they may not do any hunters and jumpers, and it would be hard for them to do it because they may not understand the values of the horses, how they're used, they're rated differently. An event horse would be rated one way sometimes if they're not going above training level, might be rated differently if they're going above training level. So there are a lot of nuances, and it helps to be with an agency that knows your particular sport.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
in having some sort of focus, the agency is able to do the due diligence and actually write up a plan appropriately.
Right. Like if somebody was telling us, oh, my horse moved up to preliminary and it got these placings, it's currently insured for this value, and I'd like to increase it to a certain amount. Well, we know based on the fact that it's going preliminary now, and they bought it when it was going novice, that, wow, that's a really big deal. And, we can recommend that to the underwriters when they might want a value increase or something like that.
Interesting. Well, Kinsey, I'll start letting you be part of this conversation.
Okay. Coming back.
It's okay. This is the fun of being live. You never know what will happen.
There we go. Okay.
So I have a very high level question to start us off.
Okay.
And excuse me if it's too elementary, but who should be thinking seriously about insuring their horse, and conversely, who probably doesn't need to be thinking about insuring their horse?
Well, I would think that if you own a horse, you need to consider several types of insurance. Mortality is the base policy, and if you have a financial interest in the horse, you most likely would be concerned if the horse died and you say had invested a certain amount of money and you no longer have that money and you no longer have the horse. So that would be one consideration, that you want to protect that financial risk of whatever that is, say $10,000, $20,000, because you won't have use of the horse and you won't have the money anymore in the event it happened to die. There are medical issues too. Sometimes the medical expenses can exceed the value of the horse in some cases. And so you'd want to be able to comfortably pay for some of these medical expenses if something were to go wrong and your horse needed some medical workup or surgery or something like that. And then there's a liability side in the event your horse happened to injure a third party, injure somebody, and you're held legally responsible as the owner of the horse. And that could be a significant issue.
So to clarify, that's different type. You're not just insuring your horse. You're getting different types of insurance for your horse, and you can ad hoc choose which ones you want.
You can choose the full mortality policy is the base policy, and you can choose to add medical. The type of medical that would be available would depend on the value of your horse and how you use your horse and the breed of your horse. Then the liability is a completely different topic, and that would be a standalone policy. Sometimes a homeowner's policy will extend to cover what they call hooved animals. Some will specifically exclude your horse. So it's not just like your dog where your basic homeowner's policy generally will provide liability in case your dog injures somebody. Well, some homeowners policies will provide that for your horse, but some will specifically exclude it. So you'd want to make sure that you had liability coverage for your horse in some fashion, either through your homeowner's policy, but if they excluded it, you could get a standalone policy.
Interesting. I am definitely aware of why we need to be covering this topic now. There's a lot to know. Nicole is tuning in on Facebook, and she
Okay.
asked if you can only insure younger horses, and if the answer is no, like where do you draw that line? Where do you draw that line?
Well, horses can be insured for full mortality through age 20. The values may not always be as, a horse might reduce in value a little bit as it gets older because the horse should be insured at the maximum at its market value. You can always, like if you have a super valuable horse, you don't have to insure for the full market value. You can insure for less than that, but you can insure over the market value. But you can apply to insure a horse through age 20.
Got it. And Jane just added in chat, which is really interesting. She's saying that USEF members get a large liability policy for $25 a year, standalone or in addition to homeowners. That's
Okay.
really
Good.
interesting.
Good.
And okay, so Holly is asking, so on the topic of disciplines, I think this is a really interesting one. And she's saying, and I think a lot of riders can relate to this, is at what point is it okay if is there like a sole discipline? If she's competing her horse, starter, maybe beginner, novice, and eventing, she's doing some baby jumpers, a little dressage here and there. Like
Yeah.
what should she be? Is her horse an eventer because that's probably the most dangerous and most expensive to insure, or what's the right route there?
That's a great question. She needs to tell her agent exactly what the horse is doing in all the disciplines and put that on her application. And when she gets her policy, she should have the use that has the highest rate listed on her policy. Between those three, dressage, eventing, and jumpers, the eventing would have the highest rate. So it would be rated as an event horse anytime that it would, for the policy.
When you say rate, do you mean her rate, like what she's paying?
The premium, the rate is a percentage of the horse's value, and the rates are determined by the insurance carriers based on their loss history. So say an event horse has, let's just go with an arbitrary 4% rate, it would be 4% of the horse's insured value would be the insured premium for that year. So if you insured your event horse at 4% and it's valued at $10,000 and it's full mortality only, that would be an annual premium of $400.
Okay. And the reason you would want to choose that highest rate is what?
Well, that would be what the underwriters would put on the horse.
Okay. So that's
it wouldn't be arbitrary.
Too.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would default to whatever the horse's highest rate is for the use.
Got it. And if you do get a policy when, let's say you have a green horse or I don't know, for whatever reason, there's a discipline change at some point, but after you get the policy. So if I were to get a policy with you, Laura, and I was doing dressage and maybe like some jumpers with my horse, and then a year and a half later, my horse was on the same policy but gets injured while eventing.
That's you. Each year at renewal, you do have to let your agent know how you're using your horse, and that should be listed on the policy. It is very important that your horse be used in the manner that is listed on the policy. If you're doing something else that you haven't told your agent about, a claim could be denied.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then we have, I need to go between screens to see who is sending in which questions. Oh, Steph's here. Hi, Steph. Steph said, would fox hunting be considered the same rate as eventing, or is that a totally different category?
It is a totally different category, and the rate varies by insurance carrier. And with fox hunting, they want to know what field they're in.
That makes sense. And Holly, we're getting a lot of questions here. I love this. People are into this. Holly's follow-up question is the rate for all event horses, does it change depending on the level? Like, is the rate different for a beginner novice event horse versus a FEI event horse?
It depends on the insurance carrier. We underwrite, I can only say based on our carriers, we underwrite through 4 different A-rated carriers. 3 of the carriers have the same rate regardless of the level of the horse. 1 carrier has a lower rate for horses that are competed under preliminary. It would be competed or schooling under preliminary. If you start schooling preliminary, they will increase the rate.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I guess it's the same rate, but on a lower market value if it's a lower level horse. So you're paying less, but you're paying the same rate. You're paying same percentage, but on a lower.
With 3 carriers, with one carrier, the rate is actually lower.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So, and just to understand kind of how the rates are derived, is that just, are the carriers that you're working with just using data, like every year they're using like statistical data on
Yes.
This is what the likelihood of an injury is?
They have so much data, and they form all of their rates based on firm data. And some carriers rate different by the breed of the horse, even if it's used for the same thing. It can be very specific. And it's all by historic data. And we never really know when the rate changes are going to happen. They do give us a little bit of a cushion so that we can get everything, like our previous quotes would be, of course, honored. But we have rate changes as the market changes and as they have more losses here, less losses there. Sometimes we see rate reductions. It's all on historic data.
None of that data is public, is it?
No, it's not. And we don't have access to it either.
Yeah, it would be really fascinating to.
It would be. Yeah. And of course, some carriers have been in business for over 100 years, so they have a lot of data.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking of this similar to like insuring something simpler, like a house or a car, where I could go online and like enter information about my car, and then right there's quotes. For somebody who's embarking on getting equine insurance for the first time, it seems like there's a decent amount of like underwriting or due diligence on your side that kind of has to happen in order for like the quotes to be presented. And in your case, there would be 4 different quotes presented, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Right.
So 1, is that correct? And 2, does that mean that in choosing an insurance carrier, somebody should be considering like or an insurance agency, in choosing an insurance agency, should somebody be considering how many carriers that agency is working with so they can get like a lot of options to choose from?
Well, I would say yes, it's nice. It certainly is a benefit to have more carriers. But a relationship is also very important. So if somebody has a really strong relationship with an agent, even if they may not even be the cheapest, they may not have the best, the product that's exactly what they want, but the relationship is also very important. So I think that that cannot be discounted. If somebody is getting quotes through our agency, we'll provide just the quotes without any like underwriting or any value approval or anything, just so that they can get an idea of what, if they insure a horse for a certain amount, what it would, what it would cost. What are the different options? What are the medical options? What are the major medical offerings? So that has, there's no restriction, and there's no, there's no cost to have a quote. There's no, you don't have to purchase the policy or anything. We just provide quotes, a lot during the day. And we email them, and it has the 4 different carriers based on what the customer is interested in having quoted. Like if it's a $20,000 dressage horse, a $50,000, pony used for driving, just, that's what we do, is we provide quotes and service the business. But I think the relationship and how comfortable
Laura's might be getting
with, yeah, and how comfortable someone feels with an agent is also extremely important.
That's good color. I just have one follow-up on this topic, which is, what are things that would be kind of like non-negotiables for somebody who's looking for an agency to work with? So it sounds like that agency covers the discipline that you are riding in, or the breed that you're riding. Are there other things that would be like, okay, it checks the box, so it's at least worth me reaching out to get a quote?
I don't quite understand the question there.
I can rephrase it. So let's say that I have a 10-year-old event horse that I would like to insure, and I've never worked with an equine insurance agency before, and I'm kind of like Googling agencies that I would like to reach out to get quotes from. What are the things that you would suggest? Like, if you were a mentor to me, which you are, what are the things that you would suggest that, like, those agencies that I'm like take the next step with?
Yeah. You'd want to make sure that the companies that they underwrite through are admitted carriers and are A-rated, and you'd want to review the major medical as well as any policy extensions. Each carrier has different types of policy extensions, and the major medical programs vary a lot between the carriers. So you'd want to make sure and review all that.
That makes sense. And Nicole is asking, when you lease a horse, do you need your own policy for the horse?
Leases can be in either the name of the lessor. It can be the lessor's policy, and then the lessee is named on the policy, or a lessee has the right to take out a policy in their name and name the lessor on the policy as well. So it can go either way.
There's another question in chat. You guys, I'm loving the questions. Thank you so much for being so involved. I'm trying to see who, I think this was Debbie. No, this wasn't Debbie's. Okay. I don't know who's this.
Who are you looking at?
I'm looking at the one that is a working cow horse clinic. So Kinsey, I'll read it.
It's Holly.
Yeah. Oh, it's Holly. I think, Laura, you kind of touched on this earlier, but just to confirm, she said, say that my horse is insured as an eventer, but I decide to go to a working cow horse clinic spontaneously one time and he gets hurt. I don't know if this is hypothetical or not. She said, would that be denied, or is there leeway for those instances?
The carriers are very thoughtful, and not only the carriers, but also the adjusters. And they would most likely understand. And a working cow horse, it could be a lower rate, and so it probably wouldn't be an issue. But they are generally, they try and work with you for sure.
Yeah. On kind of the same topic, are you insuring your horse for certain locations? Like if I'm in Florida most of the time, but I trailer my horse to Kentucky for a show, do I need to tell my insurance agency that I'm going to do that?
Oh, no. That's a good question, though. The horses are insured, at least through the carriers that we underwrite through, anywhere in the continental U.S. and Canada. You can fly your horse in any of those places without letting us know. If you extend over to Europe, you do have to let your agent know for sure. And there is a charge to extend the territory to include the countries that you're going to be in, which is fairly nominal, and also to include the air transit to get over there.
That's really interesting. And that's, I mean, maybe this is totally the norm for people and they would do it because it seems obvious, but if somebody was importing a horse from overseas, they would want to make sure that insurance is all set before.
Right. So when we insure horses that are residing in Europe, sometimes they're just competing over there. Sometimes people will buy a horse and leave it in Europe for 6 or 7 months. that's all pertinent, and you'd want to let your agent know how long the horse is going to be there, if it's going to go to specific countries that are not EU countries, things like that.
Okay. Are there any other things that people should have in mind that they need to make their carrier aware of other than traveling overseas?
Oh, anytime your horse is ill or injured, you need to let the claims office know or your agent know.
That's really interesting.
That's
Yeah.
part of the insuring
That's a lot of
contract.
calls.
Yeah, that is part of the insurance contract, that you agree to let the insurance carrier know if your horse becomes ill or injured.
So would you draw that threshold basically if the vet is required to come out? You should give your insurance agent a call.
Yeah. If it's something other than routine maintenance or routine stuff, yes, you should let them know. And the nice thing is you can open a incident report. So if it ends up being nothing, you just say, it's fine. We thought he had something, he didn't. Just close the file. Everything is good. You don't have to go through a whole claims process. You can say, this is, I just don't know what's going on. We have the vet come out. We don't think it's anything. And when it isn't anything, just say, it's an incident only, just close the file.
How do the actual claims for equine insurance work? I know I have renter's insurance and dog insurance, and you choose your premium is based off of how much you want to have coverage on. So if I want to get 60% insurance on payments for my dog, I pay less money than if I wanted to get 100%. Is that how it works for horses too, or are you just paying? You are given one option, and they're going to cover 100% of your claim at X rate?
Well, the major medical offerings vary from carrier to carrier. Some carriers have a copay, some don't. They all do have a deductible. The deductible varies. The type of things that are covered varies. So, it's all based on what program you choose. And, the adjusters, each carrier has a different adjusting company. Some of them do in-house, but they all have an adjusting company, and they all have 24/7 availability.
Wow, that's great. Heidi is here. Hi, Heidi. Thank you for the question. Heidi asks, how do you advise clients on setting a deductible?
The full mortality part of the policy does not have a deductible, only the medical part. Some carriers offer different deductibles, and you can pay less premium and have a higher deductible. So it depends on the carrier for that. And it also just depends on the individual and what risk they want to take on and what risk they want to give over to the insurance company. Some people like high deductibles on everything. Some people, and it depends on the premium difference. I know I had my auto insurance, I had a really super high deductible, and then I had them quote it for a lower deductible. I'm like, well, this is silly. I should have a lower deductible. It's only, the premium difference was hardly anything. So, get the premium difference and decide what is best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So this question is, I was going to lease a thoroughbred Percheron mare, was 14 years old, had only trail ridden in a couple of fox hunts in its life, 0 show record, had 1 live foal. The owner insisted that I carry a $5,000 mortality insurance. I called insurance company, and they said that she shouldn't be valued at $5,000. This is about 5 to 6 years ago. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, on leased horses, those present a different scenario, because the general standard for a value on a leased horse is the insured value will be 3 times the cash lease price, which does not include the board or the upkeep or anything else. It's just like the payment that you make to the owner of the horse for the use of the horse. So say if you're paying $10,000 a year to lease a horse, you can insure that horse for $30,000. Now, the older the horse is, the less value the insurance carriers will allow. So you need to talk to your agent to make sure of the value.
So in that case, it sounds like it might have been possible. This question was from Debbie. It might have been possible for her to find an insurance company that would have allowed for that value, because
depending on if she was paying a cash lease. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said, I'm guessing that you do indeed have to prove a minimum value based on something, which is just what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. There are so many good questions. I believe this one is from Steph again. Steph asked, if the horse becomes injured while insured, is there any time period when that specific injury will be covered again?
Well, if a horse is injured, the first thing you do, of course, is you talk to the claims adjusters and you work through the recovery period. Say your horse has a right front suspensory injury. So you get the treatment, horse goes back into work, goes through rehab, goes back into work, you do your trot sets, all of that, and then you start competing again. Generally, if the horse is competing at the same level, a certain number of shows, the exclusion either won't be put on the policy because maybe that all happened during the policy period, or a policy exclusion can be reviewed for possible removal. So there are always ways that exclusions or issues can be resolved. It just depends on if you can show that the issue that your horse has had is no longer an issue. I'm going to say issue like 15 times. That it's cured.
Not an issue.
Yeah, it's not an issue anymore. Yeah. I'm going to say that all night now.
Yeah, you say the word so much that it loses all meaning.
It does, yeah.
If someone wanted to do this as a career, how would you recommend they get involved or get started?
There are a lot of agencies that take outside agents and allow different individuals to write through their companies.
And then, sorry, Jessa, not to jump on your toes, but I had a follow-up question, not related to that last question I just asked, but
not a follow-up.
Not a follow-up. Another question, burning question. So related to more Steph's question is, how difficult is it or expensive is it to insure a horse? It seems like if I bought a horse knowing that it's had a ton of injuries already in its life, insuring it for me is going to be a lot more expensive because it has all these pre-existing conditions. Is that true, or how are
That
you?
That is not true.
Wow. Okay.
Because the rate and the premiums do not change, but they may not offer coverage to those issues, but you still pay the same amount. Yeah.
Got it. So if my horse has colicked before, is it likely that an insurance company would look at me and be like, we're not going to cover colic?
It just depends. Depends on when the horse colicked. Like if the horse colicked 6 months before you apply, they may not put an exclusion on. And if you have an idea of why it colicked, if you can show the treatment and that it didn't require much treatment, that would all be helpful. The more information that you can provide, the better.
Somebody was talking, Kinsey and I were at Landover, Kentucky this past weekend, and somebody was talking about, I don't know if it's because we mentioned that this was our next Ask an Expert topic or not, or if it just came up, but she said she has one horse she's planning to insure who's a youngster, and then she said her other horse, she was assuming, she said, I can't insure him because he has kissing spine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is that the case with a diagnosis like kissing spine? I mean,
it would depend on if the horse is usable, because the horse does need to have a use. So that would just have to be presented to the underwriters. And we would, of course, present it to 4 underwriters to see if it was acceptable. I'm sure that I think that there are levels of kissing spine, so it would have to have a use. A horse needs a use in order to have a value assigned to it.
And looking beautiful probably isn't looking good in the pasture. Probably doesn't cut it.
But she should definitely like ask different agents and see, because every underwriter has a little bit of a different thought process and different ideas on what is acceptable.
Absolutely.
And boy, that was a great event.
I know.
Boy, we were
there?
cheering. We were lucky enough to have some customers in it, and so we were really, really cheering for them.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Did they have a good weekend?
They had great weekends.
Oh, good. Yeah, it was very exciting. And there were over 100 Rad IQ members there. So we were like surrounded by friends the whole time.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Were you there in person, or were you watching live?
No, we were just watching, and we were keeping up with it at the office. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It was so fun. Laura, I don't know if you know this, but what would you say roughly what % of competition horses are insured? Like, is it the vast majority, or do you think it's like a small
I have
percentage?
no idea. I have no idea.
Would you think it's like more or less than 50%?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, you have some individuals that it's all relative as to, like, sometimes the most expensive horses may not be insured because they're owned by such wealthy people that they don't feel a need to insure them. So it's just, you just have no idea.
I heard a story once about a woman bought a jumper horse, and it was so like high in value that the insurance company like flew people to the barn to assess the horse prior to the policy happening. Does that happen when there's like really high value horses? Are they treated with that kind of like white glove?
No. They just are required the same, you know, over a certain value, certain documents are required, a veterinary insurance exam. But no, it wouldn't be anything special. They do, over certain values, and each carrier is different, they do reinsure. So they might, and one carrier might insure up to a certain level, and then they buy some reinsurance from another company so that they're not on the whole risk.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then my follow-up isn't really a follow-up. It's a question from Heidi. She said, are there any particularly innovative policy designs that you've seen for equine insurance? And she said, can you tell I'm in the insurance biz? Haha.
Just what we do. I mean, it's changing all the time, and they do have a couple of new offerings, not a lot, but they fine-tune them a lot. But no, I don't see anything super innovating.
On the topic of it's changing all the time, you kind of touched on that when we were like, I don't know what you would call it, in the green room before this. Before we went live, you mentioned that this type of insurance is very dynamic and changing all the time based on what's happening like in the field in real life. Is that unique to equine insurance? And is there anything with regards to that people should be like aware of when they take out their policy that they might be surprised by?
You know, I don't do any other insurance, so I can't say what other products, you know, like home, you know, we do homeowners, but you know, just the general insurance agent, I don't have really any idea of what their daily life is like, because we're so, you know, we have our specialty here. But the most important thing to do would be to go ahead and, you know, just purchase the policy, because that policy is an annual policy. And then you have plenty of time, you know, during that year, if you, if something happens, to, you know, get the reimbursement that you need and that you have that's promised to you. And then the policy extensions always help on that. And the insurance carrier guarantees that they're going to do what they say they're going to do for that policy period. And then you just, you know, the policies do change from time to time. Sometimes it's 5 years before we have changes. Sometimes we have reduced rates. So it just, we don't ever know what's really coming.
Yeah, and Jane just made a statement in the chat that actually sparked a question for me. She's saying
What's that?
She said I couldn't get my insurance renewed as an eventer in California. She said I never even used it once. Is that like, are you seeing a lot of people, like, is it pretty common for people to not even be able to get insurance if they want it?
Well, it depends. I mean, some carriers will choose to get out of certain markets, and she might be in the position where that happened, where the carrier that was servicing her policy was getting out of that exact market, the eventing market. And that does happen. So she should just call around.
Are you seeing that mostly just happening in the eventing market, or is that happening also in like the hunter jumper, dressage, or Western disciplines?
Just different breeds, different markets. Yeah. I mean, it just happens. Yeah. But there should always be another carrier that will pick it up.
People are loving this office hours. I have messages coming in from every side, including Kyle Carter, who just sent us a text. Wow, you guys are so lucky to get to do this office hours, which is the former name of Ask an Expert. Thanks, Kyle. We're happy you're here. Okay, Laura, when you speak to potential clients, are there any common misconceptions that you find yourself kind of like clearing up for people on a regular basis, or anything like that it might be helpful for people who are watching to know?
I think the main thing that we always try and work toward is communication, and for our customers, hopefully, to let us know when they change uses of the horses, and also to let us or the claims office know if their horse is ill or injured, because communication really is the biggest part. And that's why whatever agent you're dealing with, you should feel comfortable communicating with them.
Absolutely. Are you seeing a lot more, not to lead the witness here, but I'm guessing I know the answer to this. Are you seeing a lot more people today versus like 10 years ago having multiple uses on their horses? I'm just more on like an industry standard. I feel like people are more so cross-discipline than they used to be.
Not necessarily.
Kinsey and her anecdotes. Can't trust anything. Okay, I love this question that came through, and I definitely want to check who sent it because it's a great one.
What?
Maybe Kinsey might have to help me with it. Because
something fun one?
Yeah, is that Steph? Okay, Steph, thank you for sending this. She said, farmers insurance commercials highlight like the craziest incidents or stories of what they've had to insure. Laura, do you have any crazy stories like that have come up? I would imagine, I mean, you've had a great career. So does anything come to mind?
If something happens, like something unusual happens almost every week. So, not really. I don't have anything that just like jumps out, but no, there's something different almost all the time. It's a great business because the communication and getting to know the customers and knowing what they're going through and all of that, and getting pictures of the horses and then following them when they're, at huge events or small events or whatever. It's just really great. But there are strange things that happen all the time.
Definitely, if any thing can keep you on your toes, it's a horse.
It would be a horse. Yes.
Or probably
definitely. Yes. And sometimes you're like, nothing else can happen. And you're like, oh, it probably can.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, I'm trying to think Kinsey, do you have any questions in queue?
Yeah, one last question that I have here is, I know we kind of touched on this at the beginning, but I don't know if we really dug deep into it, are there scenarios where you yourself, Laura, like wouldn't insure a horse if it was your own horse?
Oh, my own horse? I insure all of my horses until they retire. Um, I insure them when they are 24 hours old. You know, I'm a breeder. Um, I start the insurance when it's available at 24 hours of age. And I insure my horses. I can't always afford to insure them all the way to market value. Luckily, I have some very nice horses. But I insure them until they're retired.
Got it. So there's nothing that comes to mind that you'd be like, probably
No,
not.
no,
Okay.
because I see all of the reimbursements that go out, and it's a very, very useful. You know, you really need it. You really need it.
Based on the like claims that you've seen come across your desk over the years, are there any
Mhm.
activities that you like wouldn't do with your horse, or just accidents that are happening that are preventable, that like you are a more informed horse person because you're seeing these claims come through and kind of being aware that there's danger that people aren't necessarily aware of?
No, no. And some people will wonder about like how, you know, what do you do on um, trying to make sure a horse doesn't, you know, stays in top form and everything. And it's basically so much as the horse's innate physical abilities and their sturdiness. You know, we all are in pretty rigorous sports, and you do have to have a sturdy horse. You have to have a horse that is, you know, the training is rigorous, and you have to have a horse that can withstand the training. Some horses just are not able to. So it's never really because of any one thing, but it's just like people. We can't all withstand. We're not all top runners. We're not all top cyclists. We can't all withstand that rigorous training. And so I think it's just a matter of finding out what the horse is capable of doing and the training and all of that. I guess a key thing is always lunging, and I don't think I would probably do a lot of lunging with my horses, but that would be about it.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned earlier that the premium, like for the rate for an event horse, could be something like 4% of their value
Uh-huh.
annually. What sort of, I mean, what is that standard and kind of like a baseline that somebody could roughly expect, like somewhere in that range, if they were riding an event horse?
Well, the current rates that we have for horses that are not showing or training preliminary is 3.9%. And then and that's just with one carrier. All the other carriers rate the event horses at 4.5%.
Okay.
And that's regardless of the level.
And then it's interesting because it's like if you choose the 4.5%, there is a deductible that goes along with that. So there's not like options within.
No, the deductible is not on the full mortality. So
Oh,
that's 100%. Yeah.
got it.
And then the medical, you choose the medical.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that 4% differ from like a hunter horse or a dressage horse?
Those vary based on the carriers. Those rates are anywhere, depending on the value too. We have some carriers that rate based on the horse's value. We have some carriers that give discounts for different values. We have some carriers that give discounts for certain customers that have a certain amount insured. So it's very, it changes.
How long is the process when somebody starts a conversation with you? Because it sounds like there's a lot to like consider and a lot of factors that you take into consideration when you're providing a quote. There's a lot that goes into this. If I were to call you today, would I have quotes this week and be able
Oh
to
yeah,
policy?
yeah, for sure. You'd have a quote today.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the medical options that people can add, like if they did mortality and wanted to add medical, are those really nuanced, like very specific things that you are covering, or is it more umbrella medical?
The medical is basically non-routine veterinary expenses. Each carrier, all the carriers are working to have less major medical claim, claim paying. So that is a very specific subject, and each carrier tries to limit their exposure in a different way. So depending on what is most important to you, you would choose a carrier with the medical program that best suits you, and you could talk to an agent and find out the nuances of each medical program.
Got it. And then as far as like what to expect in terms of cost for medical insurance, I know the range must be massive, but like if I was on a $15,000 horse that's eventing, like would I be paying more? I would assume more for my medical than for mortality per year.
No, it'd be no.
Would it be similar?
Yeah. One of the carriers would offer, if you have a $15,000 event horse, they would offer up to $15,000 medical for $625 medical. So that would be very cost effective.
Okay. That is very cost effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Kinsey, I think it's time that
Jane added a question in chat. She's saying, what are examples of treatments that are excluded no matter what?
Okay, that would be a lot of the rehab is not covered. Whatever expenses are covered, they have to be done by a vet. If the horse is being housed by the vet, it has to be at a vet clinic or at a hospital. Massage therapy is never covered. Aquatread, treadmilling, hyperbaric chamber, acupuncture is not covered. Things like that. It is specifically listed in the policy though.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting because I mean those are like such high dollar amount treatments. It would be hard to be like paying. It's just hard to like pay for insurance and also be like, man, but if I really needed this like really expensive treatment, wouldn't be covered.
And chiropractic is not covered. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. So Laura, I mean, we were like peppering you with questions. So thank you for sticking with us. I learned a lot and we really, really appreciate you sharing your expertise. One question that we love to ask our new guests at the end of every hour is just
this will be the hardest one.
No, this is supposed to be easy.
Okay.
What is your favorite part about your job?
Oh, talking about this. My favorite part is to make sure that our customers get to choose the program that they like the best suits their needs, because everybody has a different thing they're most concerned about. And it's nice when you feel like that they understand the product and they are comfortable with what they bought, because we want them to be happy with what they bought. That's it.
What a great answer.
Yeah.
You're in the right job. I love it. And probably like I'm cheering for the horses that you guys insure and the clients you work with.
That is huge. That is huge.
Laura, if people want to reach out to you or get in touch, I don't know if you guys are on social, where can they find you online?
Oh yeah. Connaway.net is our website, www.connaway.net. And everybody can just call us too. I mean, our phone number's on the web. We are on social, Facebook and Instagram, Connaway Associates.
Okay. Amazing. Well, Laura, you are truly an expert, and I could tell by the action that was happening live here that people were really like eager to learn about this topic. So thank you so much again for lending your expertise and helping us.
And one thing is that any of the people out there, they just need to ask their agent questions. There are never too many questions, and hard questions are good questions.
Amazing.
Yes.
That sounds great. Well, Laura, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. And thank you everyone so much for attending and sending great questions to Laura. You've made our job very easy today.
Good.
And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning or evening. Have a great day and week, and we'll see